yesterday I was driving back in the Tuscaloosa Toyota Tundra that I drive every single day, the 2019, and the little alert system is, because it can tell by your driving habits that if you're even moving, it'll actually tell you to take a break. Well, it kept telling me to take a break, take a break, take a break. Thankfully, I looked up at my phone, and it was ESPNU on SiriusXM calling. And for the last 15 minutes, which sometimes can be the hardest part, Barrett Sallee and Braden Gall got me through it. And so with that, I owe Barrett Sallee a thank you, because they kept me energized. I had that last 15 minutes of drive. It was coming down 79. I was actually right here in Tuscaloosa, exit 79 on 2059 southwest bound. And Barrett, thank you, man. I hope you're doing well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
I'm doing great, Ryan. Anything for you. Providing a public service to keep you and the people of Tuscaloosa safe on those roads.
Hey, absolutely. Let's go back to the game here just for a couple of minutes. Lincoln Riley, pretty much the way, and I'm paraphrasing, that Alabama won the first quarter, they won the last three. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I know what he's getting at, and I don't necessarily think it's a slight, because I think the first quarter really is what ended it, So, I think, second, third, and fourth quarters, Oklahoma kind of figured itself out. And I think that's what he was getting at. And I think he's right in that regard. I think he probably could have phrased that a little differently. But, I mean, the first quarter was the one that ended it. So for Alabama to do that and come out so hot and basically put an end to the game before it even really starts, I think that was ultimately what he was referring to. I still think Alabama had a fine second quarter. I think in the second half, you could say that Oklahoma had a lot of success, and Alabama was kind of all over the place, both personally with how that sideline operated, and then on the field they were not nearly as strong as they were in the first half. So I get what he was saying, but in the end, the power of what Alabama did in the first frame of the game meant the world. It meant the game. It basically was the outcome.
Barrett, I want to throw it to you, and you can go anywhere you want to go. But if you're an Alabama guy and you're looking at it, you're talking to a group of Alabama fans that are talking about breakdown of Alabama-Clemson. Is there a part that Alabama fans should be concerned about this team, this matchup? Is something that you see that Clemson can take advantage of?
Well, I mean, I'd be concerned about all of it because these are two incredibly equally matched teams. I'm really excited to see it. If I'm an Alabama fan, I look at two things. One, is the secondary capable of dealing with Justin Ross and T. Higgins and Hunter Renfrow and those guys? Because, Alabama goes, their DBs go against the receivers every single day in practice, and they're the best wide receivers in the country, but it might be 1B at Clemson. I mean, they are that good. So you look back, and Patrick Surtain got a little picked on in the Orange Bowl. There's a concern there because, Trevor can get those guys the ball. He's proven it now on a big stage. And this idea that he is, this true freshman and not ready for the big stage, I don't know if that's applicable with him because he's already proved it once. And then you go back and look at the numbers. You realize he only has 35 fewer career passing attempts than Tua, and he's played in 5 career full games. Tua's only played in 2. Like, the experience factor between the two is not that different. Obviously, Tua did what he did last year in the championship game, but, we've already seen Trevor on a big stage. We already know what he can do, So I think the other thing that should be concerning is that Clemson sort of proves that the absence of Dexter Lawrence really isn't that big of a deal. And, Alabama was able to get through with Lester Cotton at guard against Notre Dame. Can the same be said against Clemson? I don't know. Because Clemson's the best defensive front in the country. And, if that happens, and they do, get in the backfield, how does Tua hold up? How does Tua's ankle hold up? He gets landed on. Does he get rattled like he did against Georgia, and have his receivers let him down lots of passes? I think those are the two concerns. Is the offensive line, the absence of Deontay Brown, going to pop up and hurt him against Clemson? And is Alabama's secondary capable of holding up against those Clemson receivers because they're really good?
We're talking to Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports National College Football Analyst, Less than 1 minute ago, there was an article that was posted from you, CBSSports.com, semifinal blowouts. don't indicate a need for college football playoff expansion. I mean, you said it as we opened up. When we were there in Atlanta at SEC Media Days, we began to talk about Alabama and Clemson and Santa Clara. Well, these both teams have survived. Alabama, to me, has had a harder path to get there. Is that fair? Because I think Clemson's only played, 3 ranked teams the entire season?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say that Alabama's had the harder path. The Clemson schedule has been weak, and we all know that. And I think, maybe the criticism of Clemson's schedule, I think, is a little overdone because they still did beat Syracuse. I know people will scoff at Syracuse. That's a top 10, top 12 team, right? Like, that legitimately a top 10, top 12 team. So they've played people, but I think, the path is really not that big of a deal because good teams are good teams. Excellent teams are excellent teams. And what you've got are the 2 best teams in the country. I don't care what path they've taken. It's not like Alabama's was super daunting either, say, for the SEC championship game. So, yeah, I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter the path you took. I think, generally speaking, in college football this year, there's been a whole lot of average and a whole lot of just pretty good. So neither is really that battle-tested, maybe as other championship teams have been in the past. But, yeah, I mean, Clemson certainly has had an easier path.
We'll continue talking to Barrett Sallee here as CBS Sports National College Football Analyst. Going back to Notre Dame just for a minute, is there anything that you see that can prevent this team from getting those free passes? No. I mean, they're not getting a free pass. I mean, they won 12 games and did it against a pretty, I'd say a schedule that's not as tough as it normally is for Notre Dame, but certainly is not anything to scoff at. I mean, they beat Michigan. They beat Syracuse badly, and it's a good Syracuse team. So, like I said, there's a whole bunch of just okay in college football this year, and Notre Dame got through it. They're 12-0. Results matter. So, getting a pass for, to get to where they are, they didn't get a pass. They earned it. Now, I think when they got there, they kind of ran into a buzzsaw, but I think that's more of a compliment to Clemson than it is to Notre Dame. Maybe Clemson just really is that good, and I do think they are. So, I think Notre Dame is the thing with Notre Dame is if they join a conference, it makes it more likely that a one-loss Notre Dame gets in, just like it is for the SEC or ACC or whoever. But right now, they got to go undefeated, and if they do it, they do it. More times than not, their schedule is going to be really, really tough because of the ACC deal, which is 4 or 5 games a year. They play Stanford and they play USC every year. Those weren't great games this year, but you can't count on that every year, and usually they aren't. So I think they didn't get the pass this year. They earned it. Now, the path was a little easier than it has been in the years past because of the way other teams, kind of fizzled out. But, they still did the job, especially with the quarterback change in the middle of the season. The retroactive complaints about who was in just was ridiculous because, Notre Dame was not the one that was up for debate. They were pretty much a lock anyway. And then B, how can we look at what happens in a semifinal and assume that a team that was left out would do any different? We can't. I mean, especially considering a team like Georgia lost by 20 points to LSU. So I don't think they got a pass at all. Barrett Sallee, I appreciate you, man. I know it's a holiday. Appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with us. Happy New Year, and do want to go back and thank you for all the great appearances throughout 2018. I'm excited of continuing to feature you. Always been a guy that's been flexible with your time, and I appreciate it, Barrett.
Anytime, Ryan. I appreciate you, and Happy New Year to you and all your listeners out there.